Okay, now that you have some familiarity with the spot healing brush tool, the healing brush tool, and the clone stamp tool, we're going to take a look at content aware fill. What that is filling an area, making a selection, and then filling that selection area with what Photoshop thinks you want to replace the pixels with. Sort of like the spot healing brush tool. It works pretty much the same. It's using the same technology. You see here an image with these prairie dogs and they are looking pretty cute. But let's say you have an ad that you are putting together and you want this area right here to contain text. So you want that background to be all green so that you can put the text over it. And this prairie dog guy right there is sort of right in the way. So we want to get rid of that prairie dog. We can get ourselves 90%, 80% there using content aware fill. To do that, what I'm going to do is grab the lasso tool and I want to make a selection of the area that I want to go away. So I'm just making this rough selection using the lasso tool of the area I want to go away, and then from the edit menu I'm choosing fill. When I choose fill from the edit menu, I get this dialog box and the contents gives me a bunch of different options. Foreground color, background color, pattern, history, black, gray, white, and you'll be using some if not all of these. But in this case, we're going to use content aware, which is Photoshop figuring out to the best of its ability what pixels to use to get rid of this selected area. Now notice it says color adaptation is checked, the blending mode is normal, and the opacity is 100%. If those are different, it's not going to work as well. Once I hit the OK button, Photoshop does a little bit of calculation, and you can see it does a pretty good job of getting rid of most of that one prairie dog. I'm going to deselect for a second, and you see I got some of him still left here, so I'm going to zoom it. And I'm going to try it just one more time. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm going to try it just one more time to see if it'll even give me a little bit more. Edit, fill, content aware, everything looks good. Try it again. Not too much improvement, but a little bit. Command D deselects. So you see I get myself 80% there, 90% there. Then the rest of the way is I'm going to use the tools that you're already familiar with, and that is the clone stamp tool or the spot healing brush tool or something like that. Remember, spot healing brush is pretty simple. It's pretty easy. So I do try it first to see if it's going to help at all, and you notice it doesn't. So I'm going to undo that. This is where I've got to use the clone stamp tool. So I'm going to get a little bit bigger brush, right click, get a little bit harder brush, and then I'm going to hold down the option key, select an area from up here, come down here and just sort of go ahead and paint those in. Now you'll notice it looks a little bit strange over here in this area, and that's because I just painted too far. That tends to be the problem with the clone stamp tool. So I'm going to select again here a sample, come down here, and this time I'm not going to paint so far. I'm just going to paint this area right here. Oh, and notice I still see some of the hair. Well, guess what? It's because the opacity of my brush is not set to 100%. These settings in the options bar I've got to constantly check, otherwise these things don't work right. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that, dial up the opacity to 100%, and while I'm at it, I'm going to soften my brush just a bit to about 50. And now again, hold down the option key, get the sample up there, come back down here and do some of that. Hold down the option key, get a sample here, do some of that. hold down the Option key, get a couple samples here, samples down here, and I'm going to make this really soft. And I keep taking samples and sections and just sort of painting this in. And I can take samples from anywhere, even up here, and come down here and just sort of paint these things in. And you'll see pretty good. And now I'm going to get a little bit harder of a brush because I want to do that edge. And I'll take some samples, say from this area up here, and I'll just come down and get rid of that hair and get sort of a hard edge rock. You'll notice I have those lines there. So again, I'm going to go back to a soft brush, take sections up top here, and sort of just soften that out. Even a bigger soft brush can help. So when I want things to be softer, I get a bigger, softer brush. Oops, I'm picking up stuff over there. Don't want to do that, taking different samples. And so now, if I zoom out, you'll see I got rid of that guy, and I can add my text, grab the text tool, create the rectangle, and grab and make my text whatever it's supposed to be. And there you go. Let me make that white just so that we can see it. All right, and so there's my ad. What do you think?